Welcome to the CFO Show. I'm your host, Melissa Howatson, CFO of Venice Solutions. We are here live at Accelerate Finance 2024, and we're thrilled to bring this episode to you. The Office of Finance is always evolving. Joining me for this discussion is Meg Bear, Controller at Turner Enterprises. Meg has more than 20 years' experience driving transformational change. She is passionate about redesigning processes and has lots of experience with training, implementation, and continuous improvement. Meg, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Melissa.
Can you tell me a bit more about your background and about Turner Enterprises?
Well, I'm a CPA, and my background started in audit. I was an auditor for one of the big four auditing firms, and went from there to a company that sells extended vehicle service contracts and was a VP of finance, where we led a number of process changes, including a large rolling 7 legacy systems into a new ERP, which was really quite challenging. But I started in 2021 with Turner Enterprises. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we own and operate 14 bison ranches in the American West, as well as some luxury ecotourism properties, and manage family properties in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So we're a family business and have that family feel. We implemented Vena in 2022 because when I first arrived, I really saw the need for really evolving our business reporting and our budgeting process. So I was looking for that win coming out of the gate, and the first thing I saw that would help us would be to engage our users to feel empowered, and Vena's how we got there.
When you think about your team, what do you see as some of the most critical soft skills that finance teams need?
Accounting is an art and a science. We've got to balance the books. We like T accounts. We like everything to balance. But it's more than that. It's telling the picture, telling the story. And our users need to feel like they've got both information coming at them and a way to put information in. So that means that we've got to build bridges and partner with all aspects of our business, from the leaders to the sort of the middle manager tier, all the way to people on the ground. We learn all the time. So the soft skills really are important to create that environment that allows us to grow and trust each other.
And have you seen any of those key soft skills change over the last 2 or 3 years?
Well, since the pandemic, we've all gotten used to remote work. So I think that's given us the chance actually and the opportunity to learn how to connect with each other virtually, which isn't always easy, but it actually forces the point of communication. Because when you're on Zoom or when you're in front of when you're not face-to-face, as we are right now, you have to go out of your way to communicate. It's purposeful.
Yeah.
And so I think that's actually formed habits in the last few years that have been, in some ways, helpful. We're seeing the workforce evolve. The workplace is evolving. We have to be ready for that. And that'll just continue to grow.
When I think about some of the key skill sets to be able to relate and work with one another effectively, I think about trust and the importance of building trust. And another one is change management. How important do you think those skills are today for finance?
If we don't trust each other, we're not going to share. And if someone doesn't tell me what's really hard for them, I don't know how to help them solve those problems or enable them to step up to the plate to solve their own problems and teach them how to get what they need. So those bridges we build are critical. No one likes change. Change is hard for most of us in many ways, on many levels in our lives. And so the only way change works, in my opinion, is to start with listening and gathering the information from the people who actually know the business. Instead of a top-down approach, we really try to build a team collaborative effort that starts with what it is and where it is today, and then help partner with those business owners to drive change. And we've had success so far with that. It's no one likes to be told what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
So if people feel like they're empowered to make that change and that they're listened to, they buy in. And that's really, where we've been able to make some big progress.
And I think you have to be purposeful about that. You can't take it for granted that here's the change and everyone will come along. It requires
work all the time. Like all our relationships, you only can ask of it what you have into it. So it's a continuous process of communicating and finding out what's new And sometimes that's just checking in with people. And across our business, our managers are very busy people. Their needs and challenges are very diverse. They're like small business owners. They have to do it all. So it's so interesting to hear from them what's next and what's happening now, because that leads us to greater solution finding together.
So we talk a lot about how finance teams are increasingly needing to lean into strategy. How has that changed what you think are the top soft skills that finance people need to focus on?
Strategy versus tactics. We try to set this course after we listen, we partner, and then we build solutions, and it's a give and take to try and come up with a solution. But at that point, it's like we're all towing the line in the same direction, and that's our strategy. We get to the point where we build a strategy, and then we implement on that strategy. It needs a tone from the top. It needs that executive buy-in and real. That's super helpful, and then we cascade that down through all the levels of our teams, and really helps us feel like we're playing on the same side.
100%. So one of the things I think is also critical is reducing the silos within the business. So how have you successfully done that, or what do you think are some of the key soft skills that your team has that helps them be good at that?
Gosh, silos are everywhere. And I think it's because we become expert at the things that we know the best. And so silos are a natural sort of phenomenon. Our way to break that down is through communication. And we use a common tool. And we have a way to communicate on a platform that allows us, that give and take, whether that's a communication platform or whether it's in our financial sort of our budget process where we have input and review and our whole workflow is visible end to end. Partnering on the same platform allows us to break down silos. We speak a common language. And we find out what we have in common versus what we have that's different, and why it's important to communicate so that we can work together better.
Do you have any examples where, because inevitably there's going to be conflict that comes when you're trying to break silos down? Any example where you were able to successfully navigate a conflict to a better outcome?
I don't know if conflict is the right word, but difference for sure, difference in perspective. I loved our Vena trainings because we got people together in a room that even if they live on the same property, don't necessarily work together. And we got to a point where they were like talking to each other like, oh, you do that? Oh, that's interesting. I do that too. And beginning the conversation with where the common ground is was super helpful. Vena has been a great tool for us to do that. And so it's just been putting people in the same room. This is super helpful, and giving them exercises to listen to each other.
You talk about technology being an enabler, a tool. It's freeing up more time to do the more value-added work and also spend more time with the people across the business. So how have you seen that work out in your business?
I hate busy work. It's one of those things that sort of seemed like a necessary evil in the accounting world for so very long. And now that we've freed up, a lot of the repetitive and transaction-related tasks, that really does give us time for the more value add. And that's going to be in our analysis and are helping the business owners tell the story and understand the story that comes from the numbers. And that's been super helpful for us to expose areas where we need to add more either resources or work, or decide we're good enough in this area, we don't need to go any further.
You've had a lot of experience driving technology changes. What do you see as some of the key soft skills that are necessary to be successful at that?
Software implementations are like nothing else. It's unusual to come in on budget and on time. That's unusual in my experience. So we always plan a little extra leeway. But the soft skills around that really are being willing to make a change. I think it's easy to take a process that exists on paper and try to force the software to do what you do. But really the harder thing is to take people and their work and have them open enough to accept that the software actually performs better this way. And here's, you're leading people to a change. So those things, that leadership aspect is super important. They have to trust you to follow you. And you have to show them that where they're going isn't going to be terrible. It isn't going to be worse than where they are, but it does take time. And so a lot of that's just in building the relationships. And sometimes people will, they will push back against change because there's something else going on. So it's almost like putting on your, almost psychology hat and trying to figure out, okay, what's really going on with this person? Is it that person that they're having trouble with, or is it really this process, or is it something else? And so some of it is just listening and getting to the bottom of it. And when someone feels heard, they're much more likely to accept and help you work on a solution and craft that.
Yeah, I think about how sometimes you can fall into the trap of the software is going to fix it all. Oh, don't worry, there's something new coming. Don't worry. And the things pile up. And I always say, well, first off, we have to be able to lay out what it is we want and describe it clearly, because otherwise we can't make the software do something we haven't thought about how we want it to work. But agree with you, we have to be open to doing it different than we're doing it today, and think maybe there's a reason why it works a different way and others are doing it, and really limit how often you're customizing, and where possible, try to follow the
script,
the easier path, because you're right. And usually at the end of it, you realize, oh yeah, those things we thought we needed to do, we didn't, or there was an easy enough workaround to still make it work and come out the other side. And I also think about keeping that project going and not allowing the scope creep to come in, staying focused on, because that inevitably can also come to bear when you're implementing.
Yeah, and where it's necessary, you have to bite it off. And there are times when we have to say, you know what, we missed it on this one and we need to change this, and that's okay too. But we're judicious about where we make those types of changes. We try to stick to the script as best we can, no matter what we're implementing. Because as we integrate more platforms together, because Vena, we're about to integrate Vena to a new ERP. We're working on it right now. And so we're in it all over again. Why do we do it this way? What would be a better way to do that? And a lot of times it's just getting the right people in the room to talk about it and sort of role play it and hash it out and then come to a solution and be willing to change it a little bit down the road if we have to, but not to let it become, off the tracks. Scope creep feels like it's off the tracks to me.
Something that's interesting about you and in your current role now is, if I understand correctly, a lot of the team you're working with today are people you've worked with in the past that are now come together to work together. And, that makes me think of another soft skill that we often talk about when it comes especially to leadership, which is being a talent magnet and that person that people want to work with. How important do you think that is? And how does one go about being a talent magnet?
I'm grateful. I'll tell you, I have a great team, people I have worked with for many years. And when I had an opportunity and things opened up for them to join our team, I was super grateful to bring them along because that relationship is huge and we know each other and it makes this thing so much easier. The talent magnet is partially, we have our Turner Enterprises has a great mission. We are a conservation-based and environmental sensitive company. We're working on regenerative agriculture and things that really matter in the world. So it's not just being a talent magnet as a person or a leader, but we have a real cause and mission that is easy for me to get behind. My work matters in this world, and I think other people find that that's important. I think more and more people want to feel like their work really matters. If you think about it, the only thing you really own in this life is your labor, right? What you put your effort into. A lot of the rest of it falls away. And so that's really important. So that's the mission part. The other would just be to create a work environment that's empowering and not telling people what to do and how to do it, not micromanaging, allowing people to really shine and show the world what their skills are. And people feel proud and empowered. And that's it's a great way to be, just you go home at the end of the day feeling clean and clear about what you've done and you've got a clear mission and you like, where you're headed. I think that environment is built by just being open and collaborative. And so that's sort of my secret sauce.
So I agree. Soft skills are often much harder to train for. Sometimes newer soft skills emerge or become more important for finance teams, and it's not possible to just change over your finance team when that happens. How do you think about training for those soft skills in situations like that?
As things change, the needs of our team changes for sure. I think it's a matter of continuously assessing what the needs are. And if someone is struggling with a skill that I feel they need to have in order to address a certain situation, besides meeting with them and trying to figure out where they are in the process, sometimes it means like allowing them to step up and lead and let them really test their own skills, in the big water to see how things go. And that sometimes gives people confidence. And they realize then that, oh, I have a really valuable thing, and that opens them then to learn or be willing to accept or go along with or pick up, a better skill. You don't learn to manage people unless you manage them. So sometimes it's about, you learn more as a manager about what other people are doing than you do as a managed person. So it just depends. People are funny things. They all need something a little bit different. So again, it goes back to listening and working together collaboratively.
I agree. I think it's situational. And I do think sometimes it's easy to forget that we need to lean into training the soft skills or even practicing them, things that but maybe you're forgetting. And sometimes those little reminders that you get when you go to a conference, you go to a training session right, am I spending enough time making sure I'm influencing effectively, telling a story, communicating, my management style, things like that. So totally agree. Sometimes can't be trained, but where it can, we should lean into doing that.
Yeah. We're about assessing what talents our team has and bringing those to the fore.
100%. And let's talk about that because we are in a workplace right now where we're often working across 3 different generations that that approach things differently.
Come to my talk tomorrow because this is what I'm talking about tomorrow. But yeah, it's so interesting.
How do you reconcile that, or what do you see as some of the advice that you'd give to folks in trying to navigate that?
The generations are you are where you were when. Who you are is where you were when, and the boomers are retiring at a tick of like 10,000 a day at this point. Yeah, so there's a real shift happening. Gen Z is just starting in the workforce. We're just seeing, that generation start to take its place in the workforce. So yeah, it's a very challenging and interesting time. We all have different priorities. I like the common theme of Excel. I like common business tools that we can all relate to. And, people who, if you're familiar with a tool, you're much more likely to use it and much more likely to develop it. And it's the reason we chose Vena, because that business tool is really the glue that keeps us talking to each other, for an example. The rest of it is just being patient with each other and realizing when I was young, I was very impatient. I wanted it all now. And that's very normal, right? As you're young. As you get older, you get a little more patient with things. And so I think I would preach patience to those that are wanting change and wanting it fast. Change will happen. That's going to happen. It's the only thing that's guaranteed. So hang on for the ride. Stay with it. Pick a good organization and a mission that means something to you and let your gifts shine.
Valuable advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, whenever we do have a guest on the show, we have 2 rapid fire questions that we like to ask them. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the best piece of business or leadership advice that you've ever received?
I had a boss once who said, no one owes you anything in this life. And you have to remember that because if you walk around as if the world owes you something, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. It's really all about your effort in making things happen. And I've taken that in many times, as in no one owes me that. I have to earn that.
Great piece of advice. Second question. What is something that you do in your personal life that helps you show up as your best self in your professional life?
It's about balance, isn't it? Yeah. My yoga practice yoga for many years. It helps me regulate my emotional, physical, mental state, clear the decks and allow creativity to come, and just to take a little time, a few times a week for myself in that way. It's super nourishing.
It's good to have that forced window of trying to clear your head, isn't it? It's
on
hard.
my calendar. I put it on my calendar. Yeah.
Now, do you do hot yoga or regular yoga?
No, I think my hot yoga days are behind me.
Yes.
Any yoga is good yoga, in my opinion, though. Whatever serves.
I started trying hot yoga only because it makes me a little more flexible. Otherwise, I get a really hard time getting into those poses. But yeah,
it's a great way to burn calories.
Good. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode today, and thrilled to have you here at Accelerate, sharing your insights.
Thank you, Melissa.
If you'd like to learn more about today's topic, please visit the links in the show notes. And if you like what you heard, please leave us a review on any of the streaming platforms. It helps other listeners to find us, and we always love to hear what you have to say. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to or watch your podcast, because you don't want to miss an episode. For the CFO Show, I'm your host, Melissa Howatson. Until next time.